Hello everybody, MP from Small Field Drafts back again, but this time something brand new, a 4-team Underdog best ball draft. Now this one here is for $5, so we're going to be looking to make that $18, $19 prize if we get through. I've only done about one or two of these, haven't done too many yet, so I haven't fine-tuned my strategy. But I do think that there's a couple of things probably that we can apply from the 3-team drafts in this 4-team drafts to crush our opponents. We're surrounded on all sides by badges, and RJ Ho takes Jalen Hurts at the 101. Now, I'm not sure if he's aware or if you are all aware out there. This is not a super flex draft. This is just one quarterback. You can only start one quarterback every single week. So I feel good about where we're sitting at right now. Let's get our queue together, see what we got going on. First thing we want to do, right, make sure we're starring Mark Andrews in the queue. We don't want to forget about him because the tight ends ADPs are being artificially depressed. And as I say that, Travis Kelce goes off the board at 102. Very interesting draft right here. What do we want to do? Do we want to leave Diego here at the 3 spot with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase? Because I do like taking Christian McCaffrey. And we do get Tyreek Hill or Cooper Kupp on the way back from us. Ooh, that's tough. That's tough. Do we want Justin Jefferson? I don't think we can pass up Jefferson. He's the consensus 101 in most formats. We don't probably need to deviate too hard from that here. There is a chance that he falls back to us, although probably not. Jamar Chase, obviously, yeah, Christian McCaffrey. So is there a chance that Austin Eckler makes it back to us? I really do want to draft him, because I think his positional advantage over the rest of the running back field is significant. However, I do love Cooper Kupp as competing for the overall wide receiver 1. But because, as I've been talking about in some of my other videos, running backs in this half-point PPR format that have a path to over 100 targets seem to be the profile that we want in order to score that 300-plus point season. So let's go with Austin Eckler. We're leaving some wide receiver value on the board because we didn't get Christian McCaffrey. So there's a question that we're posing to ourselves in the first 2 rounds. Would you rather have Justin Jefferson and Austin Eckler, or Christian McCaffrey and Cooper Kupp or Tyreek Hill? I'll have to think about that one. It's pretty close to me, although I do really like Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, there's some injury concerns there. That doesn't concern me too much as it does some other people. I'm more than willing to take Christian McCaffrey at 101 even sometimes. Let's see how this one plays out, see how we feel. I do think that running back is a position that you can get a lot of value in the back half of these drafts, around picks, 60 to 70. Some of those guys like Cam Akers, Rashad White, running backs in that area of the draft could give you a lot of excess value. Keeping an eye on what our opponents are doing here, the guy in the 1 spot has taken Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes at 1 and 8 overall. Again, probably not realizing this isn't super flex. And bully ball at quarterback is already hard to do. If you take 3 of the top 3 quarterbacks, because I do believe that there's a pretty significant tier drop after Josh Allen, even that you're struggling to compete because you can only start max 1 per week. It's not like Patrick Mahomes is going to be making your lineup all that often if Jalen Hurts is number 1 in points per game this year. So that is pretty detrimental. Obviously, RJ Ho is taking himself out of this draft. He's paying the rake for all of us. So it's just me and the 2 badges left in the draft. I am on the board. Unfortunately, Cooper Kupp did not make it back to us. I don't want to take Bijan Robinson here. So really the only choice is Stephon Diggs. Now there is only 1 quarterback in that top tier left. And Stephon Diggs I don't think is in the same tier as Cooper Kupp. People do like him obviously more than AJ Brown. Obviously his ADP is higher. Because quarterbacks are going in this room because of our buddy here, RJ Ho, I want to make sure I'm getting that top tier quarterback. I don't want to fall behind at any position. And I think I can keep up with the value, even though this guy's getting AJ Brown and Stephon Diggs. I'm just going to draft a couple more of these wide receivers. All right. I like Devontae Adams best of this bunch, even though his ADP isn't the highest. He is a guy that sometimes you could probably push just because his ADP is lower. He might not get drafted where he otherwise would if his ADP was a little bit higher. But I do like having him as my wide receiver too. Having him as Okay, what is RJ Ho going to do here? We took Josh Allen away from him off the board. Let's compare. FF Legend, he's got Kelsey, he's got Bijan, Cooper Kupp, and Tyreek Hill. All right, he's very strong almost everywhere, although we are playing keep away with ourselves and RJ Ho at quarterback. Looks like we're going to get a couple more of these wide receivers to fall back to us. I'm hoping, let's see. This is why we have Mark Andrews start here, right? If you look in the player queue, you don't even see his name, but this is probably where he should start to go. Maybe behind guys like these three wide receivers, Garrett Wilson, CeeDee Lamb, and Jalen Waddle. Maybe behind Jonathan Taylor and Saquon Barkley. But the only thing is, while he's not going to score as many points as these other players, what's the positional advantage that he's giving you compared to the other tight ends, right? After Mark Andrews, there's a huge gap, and you can see it in the ADP here. More than 20 picks in difference between Mark Andrews at 2 and TJ Hawkinson at 51 ADP. That's in the 12-team drafts. That's a pretty significant advantage. I don't think there's a huge difference in points scored between Jonathan Taylor and a guy like Tony Pollard or Derrick Henry. Is there a chance he's going to take Mark Andrews if we don't? The answer, I think, is he probably will. He's got a lot of wide receivers. He's probably just going to scoop up the value that we're giving him with Garrett Wilson and Jalen Waddle, but I really don't want to miss out on Andrews here. And even if he does, let's say he grabs and he's going to get himself 5 excellent wide receivers if he grabs Wilson and Waddle. You're starting 3 wide receivers minimum every single week. Obviously, another wide receiver can make it into your flex. Okay. He felt like he didn't want to fall behind too much at quarterback, so he took Justin Herbert ahead of Lamar Jackson, ahead of Joe Burrow. That is very interesting. Why, though? I have no idea. This draft is very interesting. This is why we want to play these small field drafts, because people just throw out the book and give us Garrett Wilson's value at pick 22, his ADP of 12 in the 12-team leagues. I love it. I love having at least 3 wide receivers in the top 10 because I don't feel like I'm ever going to be falling behind, even if somebody spends their first 6 picks on wide receiver. I feel like we're still have a good shot of keeping up at the wide receiver position with everybody while keeping a top tier advantage at running back, quarterback, and tight end. So far, this draft is being very interesting. I don't think we've made any mistakes. FF Legend right now, drafting Kelsey at 2 is not a mistake. It's just not something that I am doing every time. In fact, not something I'm doing at any time. And in this 4-person draft, things are playing out exactly how I would want them to. Getting the last of the quarterbacks. Again, we can cut out RJ Ho here. We're basically in a 3-team draft, and he's just peeling the deck, making it a little bit thinner for us and the rest of the 2 badges between us. But that's more than fine with me. I have confidence. Let's tell these badges to bring it on. We definitely love Jalen Waddle. I want to draft him if I can. Devontae Smith and T. Higgins belong in the next tier. Jonathan Taylor, he's a guy that is not being shown a lot of love in drafts. He's falling down the board, and that's good for me. Honestly, what is the difference between a guy like Bijan Robinson and Jonathan Taylor? Arguably, their talent level is probably similar. A lot of people think Bijan might be the best running back to ever grace the NFL field, even though he has not touched and played in a single game yet. But even if he's better than Jonathan Taylor, how much better is he really? 10%, 20%? That's a stretch. We've seen Jonathan Taylor do it. They're both on offenses with big questions. Atlanta has a very easy schedule. Wow. We're getting good value here at us with Lamar Jackson going off the board in front of us here. Now, we didn't get Jalen Waddle, but that's fine. I do like Jonathan Taylor over this next tier of guys like Henry, Stevenson, and Jacobs. There's just some question marks with those guys. Obviously, there's questions with Jonathan Taylor, but at pick 27, we're more than happy taking him. Now, again, the only question is looking at our buddy here. Is he going to take these other 2 wide receivers if we leave him, Devontae Smith and T. Higgins? I'm going to take Taylor because I don't want to miss out on drafting him. We have 3 top 10 wide receivers. We do need to start building some good depth at running back. Our RB2, Jonathan Taylor's probably going to be hitting our lineup almost every single week. Okay, and Diego did take some running backs. So because of the fact he took a lot of wide receivers early, he's feeling like he wants to load up in running backs in this half of the draft. That's a pretty common strategy this year in all best ball formats, right? Take the wide receivers early in the first 24 picks or so, and then in that round 2, 3, 4 range, just start hammering the value that you're getting at running back there with Derrick Henry, Ramondre Stevenson. Wow. Okay, we have a question here. I love Devontae Smith. I love T. Higgins. I think those guys belong in a tier of their own. Derrick Henry and Ramondre Stevenson are also guys who are in a tier kind of by themselves. We already have 3 wide receivers. We already have 2 running backs. Devontae Smith, we don't have any stack ability. I'm just going to go with Devontae Smith here. I think because of the fact that you need to start on average 1 more wide receiver per week than you do running back, I want to make sure we're getting these top tier running backs top tier wide receivers. And like I was mentioning earlier, I do think that we can make up some value by drafting the wide receivers. I think we can make up some value by drafting the running backs in the later rounds, like picks 40, 50, 60, rather than going for the wide receivers at that range. I think there's a big difference between these wide receivers that we're drafting here and those wide receivers who are going to be available there. Whereas there obviously is a difference between a guy like Ramondre Stevenson and a running back who's going in that range. Call him Cam Akers, right? You expect Ramondre Stevenson to finish much higher. But if Cam Akers has a top season, he's going to be making a huge value leap for us. And we're not having to spend the capital that we're spending on a guy like Ramondre Stevenson if we had just taken him there at pick 30. If we can get Cam Akers, even if he doesn't compete with Ramondre Stevenson, let's say he's running back 12 or running back 15, that's probably not going to be too many points per game behind Ramondre Stevenson. And we can still cash in on some of his spike weeks. We're hoping that Austin Eckler and Jonathan Taylor can carry the bulk of the load for us. Loving the fact that T. Higgins might make it back to us. Obviously, he's the only guy in our queue that I really want. Another running back, probably the next tier of guys, is Travis Etienne and Najee Harris. So we did get T. Higgins to not fall back to us. He got taken right before us. That's fine, though. Okay, so Travis Etienne is a guy who I'm really high on. I think he's very explosive, can have some huge breakoff runs. But at this point in the draft, around pick 35, I want to make sure I'm starring the rest of the tight ends. Again, their value is being depressed. The guy at the other end, Diego, next to us, he doesn't have any tight ends, so there is a chance he takes one. Let's just start pulling the tight ends out of the queue, making the tight end deck a little bit thinner. There's a good chance that Travis Etienne falls back to us at pick 38. People don't really love him. There is another running back above him in the player queue. We did get Diego to panic and take George Kittle. That's fine with me. If he takes two tight ends here, that would be, I think, what I would do. That would be the smart decision because of the fact he's already behind. He hasn't drafted any other tight ends. He didn't get any of the top 3. In order to make up the value that he's not getting at tight end, he probably should have taken 2 of them. Instead, he took the guy I wanted, Travis Etienne. Now, that's not a bad decision, but the thing is, again, positional advantage. While Travis Etienne is probably going to score a lot of points and do a lot of work for your team in this format, the difference between a guy like Kyle Pitts and then the rest of the tight ends like Evan Ingram, David Njoku is much more significant than Travis Etienne as compared to, say, someone like Najee Harris, who we know is going to see a lot of volume, get a lot of work, score a lot of points. So I did take Kyle Pitts and TJ Hawkinson with my last 2 picks. I feel like I have some room to wiggle, to divert from the rest of the field because of the fact that this draft, a lot of these players are diverting themselves from ADP, drafting Justin Herbert at 20, drafting Jalen Hurts at 1. This guy, fantasy football legend here, he's not doing bad. The only thing about Lamar Jackson is sometimes you can get him later, although there wasn't many quarterbacks left on the board. He probably didn't feel like he wanted to fall behind. I get it. If I can get Dallas Goedert with the next pick here, I think I will take him. We're at the point in the draft where there's not a ton of people who are separating themselves. Throw up some guys in my queue here. All right. I think it's pretty clear here who I should take. If we were just going all other things aside, I'd probably take Deebo Samuel just because I like him a lot. I think he might be a little bit undervalued. I like betting on San Francisco. He's a big play threat, a big yards after the catch guy. But Dallas Goedert, I think, is the last tight end of the first 3 tiers. After him, I don't think anybody else is going to be able to keep up with us at points scored at the tight end position. Even the guy who drafted Travis Kelce, he has been pushing tight end, not wanting to draft another one because he thinks he's safe at with Travis Kelce making his lineup every single week. He very well may be. Any other tight end might not even make it in that tight end slot over Kelce, but he spent so much capital at the second pick there. Now he got great value at Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp at 7 and 10. So this FF legend here is going to be our real nemesis in this draft, but I want to make it as hard for him as possible, and I think the real way for me to do that is by drafting all the tight ends and leaving him nothing. All right, let's go back to us. Deebo Samuel is on the board. The only other question really is, should I be drafting Jahmyr Gibbs? He's not a guy that we probably want to bet on his profile. A smaller passing specialist in a half-point PPR format. Detroit did throw a lot of passes to the running back position last year. David Montgomery is probably going to be getting the red zone work. But there are some outs to Jahmyr Gibbs being an excellent value. We are getting him past ADP where he usually goes. Does he belong in the tier with like Travis Etienne and Najee Harris, or does he belong more so in the tier with Kenneth Walker and Aaron Jones? I'm not so sure. I think the only thing really is he has some major upside if anything were to happen to David Montgomery, and because of the fact that Jameson Williams is been suspended for 6 weeks, they're probably going to start to use Jahmyr Gibbs much earlier on in the season than they otherwise would have had Jameson not been suspended for the first third of the season. So I do think Jahmyr Gibbs has some outs to being an excellent pick, especially at this value, especially at this range. As our running back 3, that would be wonderful if he falls back to us here. Just him as he is now, if you're projecting his median outcome, it's probably not something that's worth taking. But in this 4-person format, we know we're going to be taking a lot of these guys, running backs in this range towards the end of our draft here. I do like the value on a lot of these guys. We could even draft David Montgomery, but hey, look at that. Jahmyr Gibbs falls to us at pick 51. We're getting so much great value. This draft, this 14 draft, I haven't done too many of them. I don't really know what my strategy is quite yet, but I think we've done very, very well for ourselves. I don't think we're falling behind in terms of points scored at any position. I think we are ahead of the field at quarterback and tight end. And wide receiver, we've got the number 1 wide receiver in Justin Jefferson. We've got 3 total top 10 wide receivers. We've gotten some good value on both Devontae Smith and Deebo Samuel. And in this back half of the draft here, this is where I want to start hammering those running backs. Jerry Jeudy is not a guy I love. Let's see. Kenneth Walker, he's the highest in ADP value. But let's just go with Aaron Jones. He's a guy who's probably has a good shot of outperforming where his draft price is right now. He is the guy in Green Bay. Nobody's really sure what to do with them about now. And he has a chance, if he scores more touchdowns, if A.J. Dillon's not as involved, if Jordan Love is a little bit better than they were, if Jordan Love is a little bit better than the Packers are projected to being, I think Aaron Jones can be a very great pick for us. We don't have too many concerns in the bye week department. We probably want to draft, we have right now 5 wide receivers. We want to draft at least 1 more. And probably the rest of the picks we want to spend on running back. And we do need to get a second quarterback just to cover our bye week. Although that can probably wait until our very last pick. Although Justin Fields is still sitting at the board. He is by far the best quarterback left on the board. And he is going to provide somebody a lot of positional advantage, whoever drafts him. We can consider taking him right here. The only problem is he has the same bye week as Josh Allen. Well, we don't need to make that decision because FF Legend just took him right ahead of us. I probably would have taken him if he had fallen to us and drafted a third quarterback at pick 18 just to fill out that bye week. Justin Fields can provide a huge amount of value because of those massive rushing touchdowns that he can rip off 50, 60, 70 yards. FF Legend is getting great value on him at pick 58. We're going to take J.K. Dobbins here. I do like betting on the Ravens being a top tier offense this year. it's us and FF Legend for sure competing. Now, the only thing about him taking Justin Fields, he probably is kicking himself for drafting Joe Burrow at pick 42. Why did he feel like he had to do that? Probably because he got T. Higgins and you want to get that stack. Stacking is not as important in this format. He drafted Darren Waller probably earlier than he should have. Some people like him in the tier with Goddard and Pitts. I don't. I don't think New York's going to be very good. I don't think Daniel Jones is a great passer. There are some questions like, is he the best receiving option in New York? Can he have 100 targets? Probably. He deserves to fall there. Okay. Jerry Jeudy, this is probably good value on him that we can draft him here. We do need another wide receiver. The only question is, Miles Sanders is probably the last of the guys who definitely I like better than Pacheco, Cook, Montgomery. I want to put Rashad White. I like James Conner. James Cook, we can get some Buffalo correlation. I don't hate that either. Alvin Kamara is a guy that even though he's suspended, maybe? Question mark? When he comes back, he's probably going to be the guy. They do have two other running backs in New Orleans. New Orleans has a very easy schedule this year, the easiest by far. If we can get him in the last pick, we might think about taking him. We don't need him because we have so many other running backs. So we definitely don't need Alvin Kamara, especially he might be suspended for 6 weeks. We want to avoid that as much as possible. But let's just keep it out of our mind. We definitely need a wide receiver here. If Jerry Jeudy falls to us, we'll take him. I like Mike Williams. Do we have anybody on Buffalo? Do we want to go for Gabe Davis? One thing, another tip that I preach, don't scroll down the queue. If we have to scroll down the queue to find Gabe Davis, he's not worth it. How many picks do we have left? We have 2 picks, and they're definitely going to be wide receiver and quarterback. Let's look. We have Deshaun Watson there, who I like. I think Cleveland is undervalued. Tua, I do like as well. Anthony Richardson, that's a nice one. Because we have Jonathan Taylor, we're kind of betting on Indianapolis. If we're believing that Jonathan Taylor is going to do well, that means that Anthony Richardson is going to do well. Now, you might think because Anthony Richardson is a running quarterback, that's kind of cannibalizing Jonathan Taylor's value. But again, if Jonathan Taylor is doing well, Anthony Richardson is going to be doing well. They can both make it because we're projecting the offense to be better than everybody else. Now, swinging for upside, swinging for home runs can be dangerous in these cumulative formats. So you want to be a bit more conservative. We don't have to take Anthony Richardson. There are a lot of questions, but there's questions with Deshaun Watson. He didn't play very good at all last year. Let's just look at wide receiver. We know we need another wide receiver. Let's see, bye week 5. That's not going to interfere. Let's just take him right here. We know we want him. We can give ourselves a couple more seconds to think about who we want at quarterback. Do we have any Cleveland? Do we have any stacking opportunities? We can't draft any guy with a week 13 bye week. Okay, we're good there. Miami, no, we don't have any Miami. We don't have any Cleveland either. So nothing with stacking. We don't want to go for Dallas. So these 3 guys are the only ones. I probably want Deshaun Watson. Tua, I think, is undervalued. He's not undervalued because his ADP is baking in the chance that he might retire midseason if he gets another head injury. Deshaun Watson, he's undervalued. He's been starting to rise in his ADP. I can see it's come up about 10 spots recently. And Anthony Richardson has gone the other way. But people are projecting Deshaun Watson to take that step forward. But that is a projection. He could be just as bad as he was last year, although that's probably not likely. I'm going to go with Anthony Richardson because of the fact we have the correlation with Jonathan Taylor. Running quarterbacks are the Konami code. We already have Josh Allen. We're projecting him to score pretty much every single week of the year in our quarterback spot. We need a guy who can take us into overdrive. Really, if all Anthony Richardson does is fall into the end zone on a couple of 1-yard tush pushes, which I think we can reasonably project, he'll probably take some of that 1 to 2 yard goal line work away from Jonathan Taylor. And we want to bank, we're already banking on Indianapolis. Let's just do it with Anthony Richardson. I like it. It's a bit risky because of the fact he might be a total bust, but again, so could Tua, so could Deshaun Watson. It might be a little bit less likely, but the upside is much larger, I think, with Anthony Richardson. So, all right. That was my first 4-team draft on stream. I hope you guys were able to follow along. I think it went pretty well. Let me know what you think. Let's just go over our team. I'm feeling very confident about the team we just drafted. Josh Allen and Anthony Richardson, the perfect 1-2 punch. I like getting a top tier quarterback, one of the top 3, and then I love backing him up with a guy with a huge amount of rushing upside in Anthony Richardson. So the perfect jabs to the face, Josh Allen, and then the haymaker to knock you out with Anthony Richardson. I don't think anybody else is going to be able to compete with us, especially at the prices that we paid. All right, running back, Austin Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, 2 top-tier talents, Jahmyr Gibbs, Aaron Jones, J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders. The only thing now, reading it back, I might have wanted a bit more depth at running back just to give us another lottery ticket for a guy to jump up and cash in some value, have an outlier season. The running back dead zone is a bit of a misnomer, I think, in this format because you can grab like 4, 5, 6 of those running backs who usually belong in that dead zone, and probably somebody from that area is going to outperform and be a big contributor to this team. But we got a few shots in. We got good value on Jahmyr Gibbs as well. Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Smith, Deebo Samuel, and Mike Williams. A lot of top-tier talent, a lot of guys who can break off huge touchdowns. That's what we're looking for in this half PPR format. Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, Kyle Pitts, and Dallas Goedert. Nobody in this draft, I can guarantee you, is going to score more tight end points than us. That's going to make our final roster. Even the Travis Kelce drafter. I think because of the fact that we just got so many. We played bully ball. That's what I love to do. I really feel confident about this. Let's compare with FF Legend, our nemesis who we were competing with throughout this draft. He's got Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and Justin Fields. If anything, I would have said don't draft Joe Burrow. Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields, I think, are going to be fine. You don't need to spend that pick on Joe Burrow. Spend it somewhere else. Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, Alexander Madison, and Dalvin Cook. I think he made a bit of a mistake by drafting Dalvin Cook because it's just an unknown at this point. These 14 drafts, these sit and go cash drafts, they're their own matchup. You don't need to worry about future ADP loss or gain. Each draft is its own game. Just there's so many questions with Dalvin Cook. We have no idea what's going to happen with him. I wouldn't draft him. And I do think our top tier talent is much better. I think Jonathan Taylor is about equivalent to Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley. I like Austin Eckler better than all these guys. So I'll give us the advantage at running back. I'll give us the advantage at quarterback. He's got Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins, and Chris Godwin. I think he is even with us, maybe have a bit of an edge because I like both Hill and Kupp as competing for the overall wide receiver 1, even with Justin Jefferson. So I'll give him a little bit of an advantage just so I'm not going crazy. Betting on myself like I might have the proclivity to do. And then tight end, he's got Travis Kelce and Darren Waller. This might be a bit of a shock, but I think that we have an advantage. I'm just saying Mark Andrews plus Kyle Pitts. I think they're going to score more than Travis Kelce. And then we also got TJ Hawkinson and Dallas Goedert. I think they're going to score more than Darren Waller. So I think because of the fact that we have a flex position that a second tight end could make it into our lineup, like you won't be able to find at quarterback. If both Lamar and Justin Fields go off on a given week, you're only going to be able to bank one of those scores. If both Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson go off, there's a good chance that we can use both of those scores in our lineup. So I'm giving us the advantage at tight end, even against the Travis Kelce drafter. That's why I love my strategy of grabbing as many of those middle tight ends as possible. Diego is the other guy, the other badge that we're competing against. Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Daniel Jones. We are by far and away outscoring him at quarterback. Running back, Christian McCaffrey, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Travis Etienne, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift. I'll give him a little bit of advantage because I think Christian McCaffrey just has that advantage over Austin Eckler. The rest of the team, I think we are keeping up with him. I think we're about the same profile. Just the difference between McCaffrey and Eckler is just a little bit. I'll give him the advantage. Wide receiver, Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown, Stephon Diggs, Calvin Ridley, Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore, and Marquise Brown. He's got more top-end talent here. I think we probably have more middle-round talent than him. I'm going to say we're pretty much even. Maybe I'll give it to him by a nose there. So I'll give him a bit of an advantage at running back and wide receiver, but just a little bit. I think we have a huge advantage at quarterback, and I think we have a huge advantage at tight end. Irv Smith is not a guy you ever need to draft in these smaller team formats. Thinking that you need to stack them up with Jamar Chase, I mean, maybe you're going with a big Cincinnati stack, but there's just better tight ends on the board who I'd rather draft. Guys who are just going to score more points. I don't need to gamble that Irv Smith is going to have a breakout year. We've never seen it before from him. And I just don't like betting on, remember, don't scroll down the queue. So I'm giving us a huge advantage at tight end, a huge advantage at quarterback, and I'm giving him 2 small edges at running back and wide receiver. I like our odds against him. Let's just go to RJ Ho's team so we can laugh at him. Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes, I mean, you'd usually be scared of that. Not something I love to do in this format, but look at this. He spent picks 1 and 8. The rest of his team is not going to be able to make up for the value that he shot himself in the foot with here. Nick Chubb, Breece Hall, Ramondre Stevenson, Cam Akers, Kenneth Walker, and Dameon Pierce. Not a bad running back room. It's actually something I like. If you don't get any of the top 3, 4, 5 running backs, getting Nick Chubb as your running back 1, to me, is not a big deal. Breece Hall is another guy who I don't mind drafting, although definitely not at pick 17. I'm trying to get him when he falls down the board, especially in these cumulative sit and goes. People usually let him slide. Other than that, though, I do like this running back room. Again, his picks, I'm waiting to see where it's biting him in the ass. And we're starting to see it here with Amon-Ra as his wide receiver 1, Chris Olave, Jalen Waddle. Okay, so while he didn't get any top-tier wide receiver talent, he did get quite a few of that kind of tier 2 guys, which I do like. And then he went pretty heavy on the tier 4 guys with Watson, Metcalf, Cooper, London, Judy. So I don't hate that. I just don't think he's going to be keeping up with us with Jefferson, Adams, and those guys. And then tight end, we're absolutely killing him. And even if Dalton Kincaid has a breakout season, we are the ones that have Josh Allen. We're going to be getting in on some of those points too. So we're killing him at tight end. Even though he's got the top 2 quarterbacks, we're still maintaining because of the fact that we have Josh Allen. He could very well be the number 1 in points per game. We're better at him than wide receiver because of our top tier talent. We're better than him at running back because of our top tier talent. We're crushing him at tight end. We're just crushing him all over the board. That was a lot of fun. I think I can say with confidence that we are the odds-on favorite to win. I think RJ Ho is free-rolling the rest of the draft here, so even if we're not the favorite like I'm projecting, we still have a very good shot at coming away with the, what is that, $18, $19 prize. Some big money hopefully coming our way. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining the stream. We'll be doing a lot more of these throughout the rest of the off-season. MP from Small Field Draft signing off. See you soon.